Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 2 of our Storytime Live on elgrow.org. My name is Eileen. I am our Environmental Education Coordinator here at Elgrow, and we're here for our second week of live Storytime with stories about the watershed and water quality and lakes, rivers, and ponds and all that kind of fun stuff. So I think I mentioned last week that I only have a few books in my house right now. My kids usually read books from the library, and we were kind of low on books when all the libraries closed down. So this has been fun going back through everything I have and finding what is appropriate to the watershed to share with you guys. So today we're reading an oldie but a goodie, one of my favorites. It's titled Wonders of the Pond, written by Francene Sabin, illustrated by Leigh Grant. This is a really fun book because it's about all of the different things that you'll find if you go outside and spend time looking at a pond or in a stream or in a wetland. And I hope that you are all having lots of opportunities to do that now that you are home a little bit more often. I wanted to share with you, let me go through my pile back here and show you if you are spending more time outside and you're seeing things that you're not sure what they are and you need some recommendations or ways to identify what you're finding. I have some really good guidebooks I wanted to share with you. One of them, you might be seeing cool frogs, salamanders, stuff like that. So this book by Michigan State University Extension, Michigan Frogs, Toads, and Salamanders is awesome. As is Michigan Turtles and Lizards, also by MSU Extension. And then another fun one that gives you a lot of broad stuff that we'll cover in our story today is called Pond and Brook, A Guide to Nature in Freshwater Environments. And this is a really cool book because it has all kinds of information about all different stuff that lives in the ponds and how ponds and brooks are formed in their ecosystems. So kind of a fun resource if you maybe have older kids, you want them to do some research or learn more about what you're seeing when you're outside. I hope you're getting outside. I hope you're enjoying some of the sporadic, beautiful weather we've been having and even the wet, rainy stuff too. All right, so time for our story. You might notice that my helpers are not here today. They, I think, are a little bit tired of me. So maybe next time you'll see them. Wonders of the Pond. It is a warm summer day. A gentle breeze moves through the trees. It makes small ripples across the pond. A bullfrog, sunning itself on a lily pad, croaks a loud song. This is the world of the pond, where many special plants and animals make their homes. We went on a walk at Pickerel Lake this weekend, and right after you get across the huge long boardwalk, there's a really big wet area that was full of frogs. It was so loud. It was really fun. A family of ducks waddles into the water. The mother leads 4 ducklings in a line close to the shore. All at once, the mother tips forward. Only her tail shows above the water. The mother duck eats weeds, plants that grow in the water. These green plants are called pondweed. Tiny fish and snails hide in the pondweed. It shelters them from big fish, ducks, and other hunters. I went bird watching this morning hoping to see one of these ducks. This is called a pintail, northern pintail. It's a beautiful duck. It's a migratory duck that you could see on lakes and ponds around here this time of year. So I was looking for it, but I didn't find it. I did find another cool duck called a northern shoveler. Okay, back to the pond. Some fish swim along the muddy floor of the pond hunting for food. They are called bottom feeders. One kind of bottom feeder is the sucker. The sucker's mouth is at the lower part of its face. The sucker feeds by taking in tiny plants and animals, which are in the mud at the bottom of the pond. Do you remember when we made our sturgeon puppets last week? Lake sturgeon also feed off the bottom, and that mouth you can see is on the bottom side of the fish's head. That's how you can tell that they're bottom feeders. Lots of different kinds of suckers live in our lakes, rivers, and streams. The bottom of the pond is a very busy place. Many things grow and live there. Plants grow in every part of the pond. That is because a pond is not very deep, usually. Sunlight can touch every part of the pond from top to bottom, and plants need this sunlight to grow. You can see that cute little frog on the lily pad. Some of our native plants here. This purple guy There it is right here. I think it's called pickerel weed. And then this one with the arrow-shaped leaf. I forget. I used to know my pond plants better than this. But if you have a shallow pond like this in your house or nearby, and it is full to the brim of plants, that's normal. That's what shallow ponds are supposed to look like. Every plant and animal plays an important part in the life of the pond. Even after a plant dies, it is used. It breaks down and makes the mud into good soil where more plants will grow. Dead plants are also food for the tiny living things in the water. One of these tiny animals is the amoeba. An amoeba is so small it can only be seen under a microscope. It can have any shape. The amoeba can stretch out long and thin, or it can curl up into a round blob. There are other animals the size of an amoeba in a pond. The paramecium is one kind. It looks like a shoe with little hairs all over it, and it swims by waving those hairs. We've got the amoeba over here, and you can see all the different ways it can move its body, and then the paramecium down here. If you have a little, not a binocular, if you have a little microscope of any kind, even a handheld one at home, you can take a drop of water out of the pond and look at it up close under the microscope. We have a little hand one. It's only like this big. You could buy one on Amazon too if you wanted. It's really fun. You can see these little guys swimming around in the water. There are tiny living things in the pond that are not animals. They are plants called algae. Under the microscope, they look like strings of beads, needles, flowers, and many other things. So these guys, algae, different types of tiny little plants that grow in the water. Really cool. The tiny plants and the animals in the pond are food for bigger animals, such as water mites. Water mites look like their cousins, the land spiders. Water mites breathe air, but they can stay under the water for as long as an hour. Many water mites are eaten by fish that live in the pond. This is obviously not true to size. Water mites are very small, but they are that red color. Worms are also part of the life of a pond. There are flatworms that slide along the muddy bottom, and there are round worms that move by whipping themselves back and forth in the water. Many insects live near the pond too. Mosquitoes lay their eggs at the edge of the water. The tiny eggs are laid early in the spring and hatch when the weather is warm. When they hatch, they look like little worms floating on top of the water. A mosquito changes many times before it's a fully grown insect with wings. Now, if anybody watching has done water sampling with us, where we've collected macroinvertebrates and other critters out of the water, maybe you've seen some of these things. Maybe not mosquitoes, but I bet you've seen some of these worms. A lot of times they're like little red ones and pink ones. We see those at the bottom of the pond a lot of times, or of lakes, or even of streams. Has anybody seen a mosquito yet? Not. Hasn't been quite warm enough. I haven't seen any, but that doesn't mean they're not out there. Remember last time we talked about dragonflies in our story? I found another story with a dragonfly, and it has more accurate information about baby dragonflies. That's partly why I wanted to share with you. The dragonfly is a very beautiful pond insect. It has a long, narrow body and 4 thin wings. Dragonflies come in many colors, and they are large insects. A dragonfly can be almost 4 inches or 10 centimeters wide from wingtip to wingtip. They can be huge. So this is an adult dragonfly. Flying again next to that nice native aquatic plant here. Pretty sure it's pickerel weed, but if I'm wrong, somebody comment and tell me. Here's the fun story about dragonflies, you guys. Dragonfly eggs are laid on the pond water or on the plants that grow in the pond. They hatch into little insects called nymphs. These nymphs live at the bottom of the pond for a year or longer. When nymphs are ready to become dragonflies, the adults, they climb up plants to the air. Once a nymph is out of the water, its skin splits open and out comes a dragonfly. It spreads its wings and flies away. Isn't that amazing? So many of our cool aquatic or our cool flying insects start out their life in the water as nymphs, just like this dragonfly. Damselflies do that, caddisflies, mayflies, all different kinds of organisms start out their lives like this. And then after, they actually spend most of their lives underwater, and then they crawl up onto sticks and things and hatch out. Last year, or maybe it was the year before, at our Stream Girls camp, we found a stick like this, and it had just the exoskeleton of the dragonfly nymph on it. And you could see the place where the back had cracked open and the dragonfly had come out, and it was awesome. So keep your eyes peeled for those if you're out. And if you're in the stream or in a pond, flip over the rocks and see if you can find any of these little nymphs living underneath. They're pretty cool to look at. They can tell us a lot about water quality, and we're going to have some activities later on in a couple days or weeks where you'll be able to learn more about that too. Okay. There are hundreds of different kinds of insects at the pond. Water striders seem to skate over the top of the pond. Back swimmers, shaped like a boat, move around with legs like paddles. And there are flies, beetles, moths, plus many more. So these are some of the guys that are on the top. So the water strider, I have a fun activity I'll post in the comments for you to look at later about how these guys, these water striders, stay on top of the water. So you can practice some fun experiments around water tension to understand how their little feet are able to be on top of the water and not sink in. I always like these little back swimmers because their feet look like little paddles on a boat. They're really cute. Where the pond is shallow, shrimp and crayfish live. To swim, the shrimp turn onto their sides and wave their legs. Crayfish look like small lobsters. Their shells are grayish brown and hard, depending on the species. The crayfish has 5 pairs of legs. The pair in the front are the claws, used to catch and hold small fish, insects, or plants. Our little crayfish a little bit more up close. They're pretty cool. Last year at spring break, this time of year, we were visiting my brother who was in Louisiana at the time, and we ate a bunch of crayfish. And they were so good. Anybody here ever eaten crayfish? I don't know if they're good. I don't know if the Michigan crayfish are good or not. Snapping turtles are the biggest animals in the pond. They can grow to be 2 feet or 60 centimeters long and weigh more than 40 pounds or 18 kilograms. Snapping turtles spend the winter in the mud at the bottom of the pond. In spring, they come out and dig a hole in the ground near the pond. This is where they lay their eggs. The eggs hatch into tiny turtles in about 3 months. Look how cute those little babies are. Every time I see a baby snapping turtle, I think it's the cutest little thing ever. But you got to watch out because even the babies can pinch you. The big ones can really hurt you. I hope no one's ever been bitten by a snapping turtle. There is a creature of the pond that looks like a very small dinosaur. It is the salamander. Salamanders can be black with yellow marks, brown with blue spots, or bright red with black spots. We have a lot of salamanders around here that are black or brown colored with a bright red stripe, or even a gray stripe. You might see those commonly too. But you also can see the yellow and black ones and the blue and black ones. Some salamanders do not have lungs. They breathe through their skin, but they must keep their skin wet to be able to breathe and stay alive. All salamanders eat worms, insects, and snails. Oh, sorry, I had the salamander cut off. You didn't see him. So there's a little salamander. He looks like a lizard, doesn't he? But he's not a lizard. He's got wet skin like a frog. He's an amphibian. Lizards have dry, scaly skin. They're reptiles. Different. Frogs start life as an egg laid in the pond. After a few days, they hatch into tadpoles, little swimmers that look like fish. It takes 2 years for a tadpole to become a bullfrog. So not all frogs take 2 years, but a bullfrog, which is this big guy in the picture here, takes 2 years. Frogs spend all of their life in or near the pond. They sit in the sun and catch insects flying by, or they dive into the water to catch small fish. When winter covers the pond with ice, the frogs find a warm, dark place beneath the ground or deep in the pond. There they sleep until spring. I think this picture is funny because look at that frog covering his face with his little hands. Do you think frogs do that? They go to sleep and they go like that. I don't know. Snakes live near the edge of the pond where the water is not deep. They eat tadpoles and frogs, salamanders, fish, and worms. Like frogs, snakes sleep through the winter. So some kinds of snakes live near the pond, but other kinds of snakes actually live in the water. We do have some water snakes here in Michigan that you might see from time to time. I've seen them in ponds. We don't have eels. Sometimes when my kids see a snake in the pond, they think it's an eel, but it's obviously not. Fish of many different sizes and shapes live in the pond. The pumpkin seed sunfish is very colorful. It is blue, green, and orange, and near each eye, this fish has a bright orange spot. Pretty. Anybody ever caught a pumpkin seed sunfish before? There are many small fish in the pond. Little minnows dart here and there through the plants. The pickerel hides under a lily pad, waiting for a small fish to swim by. The pickerel is hard to see in the water. It's green and golden brown, looks like the plants around it. A minnow glides by. The larger fish darts forward and catches it with sharp teeth. So being disguised so that you're hard to see sounds like an adaptation to me that this type of fish has. Let's see some other types of native plants up here, like a lily pad. Many birds come to the pond. The red-winged blackbird builds a nest around cattails in the pond or on a bush nearby. It lays 3 or 4 eggs in the nest. In 2 weeks, the eggs hatch. Mother and father blackbird feed the baby birds insects from the pond. Now, red-winged blackbirds are very, very territorial, as you might know if you've ever been attacked by one. This time of year when they're making their nest, you got to be careful, because if you go by and you're too close to their nest, they will swoop down and try to get you on the head. So be careful. The little marsh wren and the great blue heron stop at the pond when they fly south in the autumn. They visit again on their way north in the spring. I don't know where this story is meant to be taking place, but we see great blue herons almost all year round. They live here all summer for sure. So we've seen some herons lately. Beautiful, very tall, very big birds. How did the world of this pond begin? Does anybody know who this is? What kind of critter is this? It all began as the work of one animal, the beaver. Beavers make ponds. They do this by building a dam across a stream. The beaver cuts down trees with its strong teeth. Then it drags the logs into the water and builds its house with them. The dam holds back the water of the stream and it collects. Finally, a pond is born. That is how some ponds are born. Not all, but you're right. Beavers do build ponds. Some ponds are just there naturally, or in our area, we have a lot of ponds that are here as a result of glaciers on the landscape. So either scouring holes as the glaciers retreated or leaving big chunks of ice behind that then melted and left a depression like a little lake. That's called a kettle lake. So we have different kinds of ponds around here that are not all from beavers. Like the beaver, the muskrat builds a house under the water. The house is made of mud, reeds, and cattails. The muskrat, a fine swimmer, uses its partly webbed feet like paddles. Now, muskrat, sometimes people think they're seeing a beaver, but they're really seeing a muskrat, and you can tell because you can see this guy's tail. This is the muskrat tail. It's long and round, like a almost like a rat tail, but it's black. The beaver has that flat tail. Muskrat are usually smaller than beavers too. So usually you're seeing a muskrat, but if you're lucky, you might see a beaver. Spring and summer are times of great activity at the pond. When cold weather comes, life slows down. The green plants at the pond's edge turn brown and die. Birds fly away to warmer places. Some animals go to sleep in their homes under the water. The fish swim slowly all winter long. So there's the Canada geese flying south for the winter. And they're all coming back north. They're all coming home now, aren't they? We saw a lot of them this morning. But spring will come again, bringing warm weather. Once more, the pond becomes a busy place. The birds return. The animals come out of their winter sleeping places. The plants are green again. Nature has awakened the pond, and it is bursting with life. Look at these cute little spring peepers. They are adorable. That's the kind of frog that's here. So there's lots of amazing things happening in our waters. If you want to check out this book for yourself, it's an older book. We got this when a library was, I think it was actually a school library, was getting rid of a bunch of their stuff. And we took it home, but it has lots of fun information about the pond. But if you get outside, you'll have an opportunity to see and hear all those cool things that are going on. And there's lots of fun citizen science projects happening right now, like Project Frog Watch, where you can listen and see what you can find, and you can share your information with scientists and other people out there who are looking. So I would encourage you, if you're going outside, to practice that, learn your frog calls, try to learn some bird identification and enter what you find into eBird or iNaturalist and share what you're finding with other people and use those tools out there to try to identify what you're seeing in the pond or in the woods or in the fields as you spend time outside as well. I hope you enjoyed this story. Come join us again next week. This was Wonders of the Pond, but next week I have a special story for you that's buried somewhere in my kids' book box about rivers more specifically, so that'll be fun. And then join us again on Wednesday for a science demonstration that has to do with soils and plants and runoff and erosion. It's really fun. And then on Friday, we will do another soil-themed activity looking at how we can use soil in art. So we hope to see you again soon. I hope everyone is doing well. We miss seeing your faces in person, and we look forward to when we're able to get out and be at events with you and in your schools again soon. Stay safe.